Welcome back to our DNA. We're in episode 14.
Amen.
I'm Brandon Duplessis. We have David Medina and always Philip Price. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Doing great. It's a beautiful. It's a little wet, a little cold, but it's nice here.
A little wet, a little bit cold. That's how it is here too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's raining everywhere. I don't know what it is.
Raining everywhere, yeah.
Yeah.
It just started here about 4 o'clock, but 4:30 it started raining.
Got you. Yeah, it started raining here at like 9 o'clock, I think, 9 this
Really?
morning.
This morning?
Yeah, pretty early.
Yeah.
I'm in California, so I'm sure it got to us a little before it hit you, Phil.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
But I think it's only going to last through the night. I think tomorrow will clear up. That's what I heard. I thought.
How is it for you at work when it's raining?
As long as it's not windy. But one thing that stops any sales, outside sales, is the wind. Wind, for whatever reason, in all the years I've been in the car business, I've seen it be pouring and people come out and buy cars. We sold 2 today, even though it was cold and wet,
Huh. It's not bad.
2. Yeah, we sold 2 today, so. And then 3 yesterday and 3 the day before. So it's a little store, but it does really well. Mm-hmm. Now that we put some energy in the place, because the place was flat before. You had the wrong people in there with the wrong attitude. Not nice. It's easy business, but you got to put the right team together. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it always matters what team you have, right? I think that's always. Like even with basketball, when I would coach, I always talked about the best teams are the ones that win, together, the ones that play together, what work well together. It's not always the best player or the team that has the best player, right?
Look how many times that hasn't come true. The best player without a doubt, LeBron James is one of the greatest players to ever play. He lost in some finals, you know what I mean? So it's not just greatness, it's the teamwork.
Yep.
100%. That's why you have teams like the old San Antonio Spurs with Tim Duncan on it and David Robinson and that boring team, boring but play, very simple, but they won. It was one of the greatest, franchises at the time, period.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And look like the Warriors are coming back now that they got Jimmy Buckets. So they look a lot. I'm a diehard fan of theirs, but I couldn't watch their games because you kind of knew it was like you knew they were going to lose at the end. They played the whole game close, and then with about 3 minutes to go, you go, "Oh, they're getting ready to lose it." And they did that about 25 times. Like, oh, excuse me.
So, I haven't been watching, but I do know LeBron hit 50,000 points.
He's at 50 now?
Yeah, he just hit it, I think it was yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's amazing? He still looks great out there. And all the years, and I've always been a basketball fan. 35, man, guys used to start slipping. I mean, remember Kobe when he was 35? He didn't look the same.
It's just different.
Michael didn't look the same. I mean, LeBron looks just great, man. He still looks great. He's 40 years old.
Because he's always been a man amongst boys. Like he's always had just kind of that bigger size, that body, that style, the way he played. So for him to be playing in the NBA, it kind of reminds me of just playing in my men's league in Moore Park or down the street because I can still play in my men's league and do pretty good, but LeBron's doing it like it's nothing. Like he's playing it with the top talent.
He's 26 points a game? Something like that?
Against the best talent in the world.
At 40, nobody's ever done that. Except Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Jabbar did it too. Jabbar he was amazing. Still did.
Yeah.
30s, yeah. He went. But no, man, it's crazy.
Yeah, time flies.
Oh yeah. Let's see all this. and it's just great. It's great. I love basketball, though. I do. I love to watch it. So,
You're not really a
guys,
sports guy, David, right?
No, I don't know anything about sports, to be
of
honest with
course,
you.
It's like,
he says no. I don't.
hey, you just
What?
learned something.
Yeah, I did. I did. I know the names. I mean, I know LeBron James and I know Jabbar, but I only know him because of a show I watched, and he happened to be like a feature on it. Yeah,
What show was that?
it was. Have you ever heard of the show Dave?
Yeah,
It's on
absolutely.
FX. Yeah, it's about Lil Dicky. He's a rapper, and it's kind of like the story of how he used marketing to basically make himself like famous.
Right. Is
Yeah,
it past? I watched up until I think season 2. Is it on the third
yeah.
season or
I think it's on this third season. Yeah, it was the most recent season that they had Kareem. Shab- I'm sorry, I can't butcher their
Kareem
names.
Abdul-Jabbar? Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They had him, and yeah, he was like part of the episode, and it was really interesting. Really good episode. Very wisdom.
He
Lots of wisdom in that
literally,
guy.
they in the history of college ball, they changed the rules because of him.
Really.
Oh yeah, the varsity team for UCLA was number one in the country.
Mhm.
They were getting beat by the freshman team, even though they won like 30 some games and lost none. They were getting smoked by the freshman team with Kareem
Mhm.
Jabbar,
Wow.
and he was just phenomenal. They said the dunking was not safety, wasn't safe, so they took the dunking out of basketball because of Kareem.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah, that's when you developed the sky hook and just took it to another whole level. And it
That
was
helped him up. That actually
oh,
helped him. That setback was a
it,
setup.
it
Um,
yeah. I mean, he was. I mean, he won at every level. You know, he won a championship with the Milwaukee Bucks way back in the day in the '70s. You know, so he was an amazing player. But 7 foot, what, 3 or 2, something like that. He's a huge dude. I met him one
wow.
time in person, just once. I met him.
Really.
But guys, what do you think about the world right now? Where are we?
Where are we?
What do you see
I
this
don't even know.
going? Are we going to become a communist nation?
Is that what's going on in the news? I haven't kept up. I'm not gonna lie.
Well,
You
I
know what?
try not to keep up because it depresses me,
Yeah.
but is that where
I,
we're
I,
going,
I,
Brandon?
I get just enough information to stay informed without going crazy. And with President Trump met with Zelensky, right? The Ukrainian president.
Oh,
Did you
that's
hear
who that
about
guy
this
was.
thing?
Okay.
Yeah.
I peppercorn.
And
Yeah.
like the guy goes to the Oval Office in like a
Gym gear, right?
like he works for Apple, like he's just wearing that black sweater, and you end up watching these two world leaders literally have an argument in front of the world, to the point where it's almost like literally like watching a reality TV show and watching a couple fight, or like two guys fight that are about to go into blows at the bar, like, and then Trump mentions words like, "Man, you're messing with World War III here," like their president, Ukrainian president, and ours were going back at it, and it was crazy that they showed that on TV. Honestly,
Well,
Yeah.
and now the rest of the world is preparing to go. The European countries, Canada, and everybody is going to go against the United States if this thing goes ugly.
it's not looking good, and we're raising tariffs and all this stuff,
It's
and when
just
we did this before, it created a depression in our country. Like,
Yeah.
we're back in the 30s, so with us raising tariffs 25% to Mexico, China, they're just going to pass that on to the consumer.
consumer.
Like,
That's how it
Yep.
happens. Yeah,
yeah.
so it makes everything more expensive.
So
But
we're going to go through a hard time before it gets better. I know that, and things are going to change.
but he wants to get rid of, like, Social Security and all that stuff. I don't get it, man. They just want to bring hard times to people. They really do.
Yeah, and some of the it's tough, man, because obviously some of the things they've created weren't sustainable, right? Like
Hmm.
we can't just keep printing money like it's nothing, right? That idea of money printing is not sustainable. And the where they've put the money has probably not been the best either. So it's like we've just been digging our hole deeper.
But everybody that's in Congress and senators, they're all thieves. They're all scoundrels. They steal money from the U.S. government. And all the contracts are friends that steal from the U.S. government. The biggest one is United Healthcare. They owe the U.S. They overcharged them, and they got proved $5 billion, $6 billion. But would they go after them to try to get their money back? One of the richest countries and companies in the world,
No.
because they're getting their kickback, and that's all they care about. How do you leave the White House? Obama was only worth $4 million when he went in, and you buy two properties that cost $30 million and you pay cash for them. Okay, I didn't go
We
to
do the
Harvard.
math.
Me out here. How do we do this math here? You buy two houses, pay cash for them, $30 million.
What do you
And you
think's
know he
going to
didn't
happen,
give
Philip?
everything he had. He didn't give everything he had, right?
No, not even close. So where do you see it going? Because I think you stay more on top of watching it directly more than David and I do. But
Yeah.
It's just what the agenda that they have. I think David hit it right on the head. I think what this is all, they're going to set it all up so the billionaires can even get richer. So when hard times come, guess what happens? People have to bail out of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Who's got all the money? The
who's going to
Zuckerberg,
pick that up?
The banks, the businesses.
all the people that's part of that
Yeah.
main.
The circle.
He's got more billionaires in his cabinet than in the history of the United States. They're all billionaires, and
Yeah.
they're all in it to get more money. That's all. They're gonna make.
Mm.
They're gonna make a tremendous amount of money.
We'll probably see
You
our
know,
first
we'll all
trillionaire.
be renters. We'll all be renters here in the United States. I think eventually,
Mm.
because they're buying up all the houses, man. The big corporations.
Yeah. There's too much going on in the world. Too much.
Well, common sense ain't common no more.
Mm.
Greed is. I've never seen it. So it's steroids now. Greed is just. Do you realize in the 70s, man, they let you make money in America? You could work in a factory and you could make enough to live a great life. That's all my uncles and everything. That's all they did. They worked hard labor jobs, but they bought houses and they retired millionaires because their property brought them to $1 million. You know,
Mhm.
I'm just worried about my grandkids. Will they be, you know, will they be able to just live a good life? That's all. Yeah, that's all I care. You know, live a good life.
I have a feeling your family's going to be pretty good, Philip.
I think
Yeah.
the kids, yeah, they get that hustle in them. You know.
Yeah, you got a good head on your shoulders, good hustle.
Yeah.
When I think about the concept of how bad things are, it always reminds me of this photographer I watched this interview on, and he was like a world famous photographer. Like he was awarded like the best picture of the year kind of thing at one point.
Mhm.
And when he got awarded the best picture of the year, it was this really still, almost imagine like a koi pond or like a foresty type pond with like
Mhm.
just a little bit of dew on the top of it, like, or, steam coming off the water. And it was a beautiful, right first thing in the morning. It was like a beautiful shot. It was like perfectly still nature. And the person was interviewing him saying like, where did you come up with this shot? How did you get this? How did you find it? Like, what was the story behind it? And he told a great story where he had actually stopped doing photography for like 8 years or 10 years, something like that,
Mhm.
after 9/11,
Mm.
because when 9/11 happened, he stopped seeing the beauty in things. He started realizing there's all this war and all this pain and all this suffering happening all over the world that it was hard for him to almost enjoy
Mm.
and enjoy taking photos anymore the same way, just like now, there's so much negativity, there's so much bad happening that it's kind of hard to even pay attention to it. It's just everywhere. But anyways, and what he said was, in that very moment when he took the picture, he realized that at any one time when there's bad happening, there's also good. And there's that balance that's always kind of be there, where when there is this evil in a sense of happening around the world, somewhere there's perfection and beauty and good and love and kindness. And I think that's where I try to keep my mindset on, is even when I see all this bad, I still care for it. I try to do my best by it. But at the same time, I also try to find the joy and the beauty and the other things that are, because at one point, it's always going to be that. There's always going to be that joy and pain, that good and bad. It's always going to be happening.
It always has been that. It really is. I agree. Yeah. You just got to see the beauty in it, I guess.
Yeah, or there's beauty somewhere, it may not be.
I mean, I don't watch it that often because it depresses me. So I've never watched the news. One thing I've done consistently my whole life, I never wanted to watch the news because it can affect you, especially being a business person. If you look at television and the news and you see it's negative, 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 and the last thing you need in a business is negativity.
Right.
You need positive energy. You need people excited. And I never watched the news. Like when I bought Red Bluff Ford in 1989, the market for the car industry was not the greatest. I had a meeting with all my managers and I said, you know what? Don't look at the news. Don't do anything, because if you're on the Red Bluff team, everything's great here.
Every day's a good day.
Negativity, it's great here.
Keeps you positive.
Mm-hmm.
And we went after it. We bought more cars. We sold more cars. When everybody else was kind of coiling back, we just said, hey, we're going to go for it. And we went on the run and just kept it going.
You cut out the noise, right?
You got to cut out the noise. And I think that's, your story alludes to that same thing with what I'm saying. Right. You know what I mean? You got to find the beauty. Even when it's negative, you got to find the beauty. And I appreciate you saying that too. You do.
Yeah. Yeah. At all times.
Beauty out there. Yeah, there's still beauty out there.
There's still greatness. There's still a miracle happening somewhere. Kindness, an act of God. Like there's still something like that happening. They don't maybe talk about it on the news the same way, right? Mm-hmm. It's not as exciting. Kind of like the movie Anchorman. I don't know if you've seen it, Philip, David, or not, but at one point they're like getting bored of the news and they don't know what to talk about anymore. And all of a sudden a high-speed car chase starts happening. And like, it's the first time in history that they start filming a high-speed car chase, and like people are glued to the TV because they want the drama, right? They want to see like the bad, or if it's going to crash, or like, because people want to see that destruction sometimes, or that chaos, that excitement, more so than hearing about always what's good sometimes, I guess. So, but
well, in the news,
balance
bad
is good.
News sells, and you got to admit that right now they got a lot of people afraid. If they watch the news, they're afraid, and you can't be afraid in life. You got to just go for it. Like you said, you got to still see the beauty. You got to still see the beauty. Yeah. And there's still beauty out there.
Well, keeping people afraid keeps them watching, right? Like keeps them wanting to see what's going to next, prepare themselves. And people like to get worked up. People like to go cheer at a basketball game or football game or root for their team and just go crazy. They like to spur up that emotion. Yep. And the news does that to you. I talk to people that are like angry. They are mad.
I've never seen in my 72 years on earth a country divided like we are now with hate. There's people that on one side they're mad. And then, kindness was a common thing in the 50s and 60s and 70s. whether they and prejudice was at an all-time high. But out of respect, if you were an older person, you said yes, sir. Whether they were a white man talking to a black person or whatever, that age thing, they kind of gave respect.
That
And
respect.
it's the people are. I get excited when I see people do nice things. Like the other day, I'm at the gas station and there's this white clerk, and this little old lady comes in, and she said, "Oh, you ready to get some gas?" Whatever she said, called her name, and she's, "Oh yeah," and she says, "Hey John, you got to come up here and work the cash register because I got to go help my friend put gas in the car." And it really touched me, and I thought, is it really that in my mind that little is not little, but that kindness really it resonated. I mean, I'm literally at the pump, and tears came to my eyes. I'm like, because it was so beautiful that she was out
Yeah.
there respecting her. And I catch myself saying to people all the time, "Thanks for being nice to me," because it's nothing worse than going to a place and somebody's not nice to you. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
I
and at the
actually,
same time, it feels so good when somebody is like, it just can change everything. And that's why they say like, words can either make or break you kind of thing. And I tell my kids, if you have a chance to be nice, take it. Like it's an
well,
opportunity to be nice
well,
as long
think
as
about
it's
how much
obviously,
better you feel when you're nice too, though. If I'm
Mhm.
nice to you, Brandon, or to David,
Hmm.
there's good energy in my body. But if I'm trying
Yeah.
to be mean to either one of you, think about the stress it puts on your own body
Yeah.
Hmm.
if you are bringing up that negative vibe. Just like
Yeah.
I don't understand road rage that people just ruin their whole lives over it. I mean, I've watched some incredible cases where people that you look at and you just think they would never do that. But they got caught up because somebody cut them off in the front.
Well,
And
that's where some people are nice, but they save their rage for these moments. Like I had a buddy of mine who was always nice to everyone, super kind. But when you got in the car with him, man, it was like you just held on for dear life. He was angry, yelling at everybody, like he got it all out while driving.
Hmm.
And it was
that's
and
crazy. Seriously?
or like, yeah, he just got it all out. But then in person, he was just nice to everybody. And you end up knowing who people really are, right? When you either work with them or travel with them. I guess driving is a form of traveling. So, you kind of see who people are. Um, but I would always get upset when I'm driving with somebody. And when somebody cuts them off or something happens, their instinct is to react by verbally saying something or getting angry, like, oh, what is this person doing? Instead of actually reacting in the way they should driving their vehicle. I'm like, that second you take to complain about the other person is the second you need to adjust yourself to make sure you don't get in a crash or they don't hit you. At the end of the crash, if you're like, oh, if they hit me, I don't care if it was their fault. You still could have maybe avoided it by adjusting and taking that second to drive versus taking that second to complain, right? Or to get mad or to react verbally. So when I was teaching my kids to drive, that was like no road rage. Don't don't take don't take a second to yell or worry about something. Make sure you focus on the right move to make to save your butt, not complain and whine about somebody else running into you.
I hit a kid in the back in my Mercedes. This was maybe 6 years ago. And the kid gets out. He's a young man, probably in his mid to late 20s, right? But he gets out. He's ready to fight. And I go, hey, it was an accident. That's why they call it an accident. I said, I didn't get up this morning and say, oh, I'm going to hit somebody in the rear end. Here's
Ran
the
right.
insurance. I got the insurance. Your car's going to get fixed. You're going to move on. And then he calmed down. He said, oh, I apologize. I says, yeah, you got out your car on steroids ready to just whoop my ass over an accident. I mean, I didn't get up this morning and say, "Oh, I'm gonna find a white Honda and I'm gonna hit it in the rear end." I mean,
Right.
I could see if I did it on purpose, you know. And he calmed down and he was nice after that. But I could see how people could get out of their car and lose control for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of scary, you know, that people like there's this great looking couple in Texas, man. Great looking couple, wife and husband, both very handsome. And the guy cut him off or something. The wife reaches under the seat, gets their gun, and starts shooting at the car and kills the driver.
What?
Now you got murder charge over road rage.
Oof.
That's, I mean, don't that blow your mind that somebody would ruin their entire life over an incident? I mean, I'm just thankful that I never was that guy because that would scare me that I would ruin my life over an incident. You ever think about that? Ruin your whole life over an incident? Wow.
My life, we all could have had one of those instances, right? Where,
Yeah.
and that's where it's like learning to control yourself. Because if they get that angry in that kind of environment, imagine when they're at home, when they're with their
Oh,
spouse, children, and it's like I always have a high level of respect for the guy who could like stay calm during chaos, or like his woman's yelling at him and he just like somehow stays so cool through it. Cause even I have to work on that to this day. Like if my girl comes at me with heat, it's hard for me just to like totally stay calm. Maybe for the first minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but like by minute 5, I'm like, okay, this ain't flying with me anymore. So like to be able to stay calm and what's the word, stoic, right?
Mhm.
Where I respect that because, and I'm
but
pretty good, but
the
man,
majority of successful people, they have that same burning desire that you and I have and David have, but they just keep it under control. If I could live my life over again, I would be that control rage. It would be inside me, but I was more verbal and showed it on the outside. But I see why people, like some of the business friends I met that do, like I have one, he's a Leo just like me, but he's the complete opposite. Very calm, never gets excited. You know what I mean? But I mean, he has that fire and he knows how to make money and he makes a lot of money. But he thinks everything through.
more
He
control.
never speeds himself up. Does that make sense? He never speeds himself up.
Yeah.
He stays calm, even at adversity. He just he
Yeah. What
chills.
is it? Quick to listen, but slow to make a decision, right? Like
Right.
you don't. So I respect that.
I respect that too.
Yeah.
So, what are we going to talk about today? Let's talk about any interesting subjects that you guys have run into that kind of make your mind wander or
You
think.
know
Or
what? I have something that might be interesting. What's one book that has affected you guys in your life, whether it's communication, sales, or just life in general?
there's been a lot that there's one that Reginald Lewis book I read. Uh, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun is the name of the book. And
Interesting.
I'm halfway through that book.
oh, you are? What
Yeah.
did
Well,
you
I was
think of?
Audible.
What did you
It's an
think of that
Audible.
book? Yes.
He's impressive. His
To do that
ability
in the
to
70s, now you gotta understand, guys, let me paint a picture of what the 70s were. There were not a lot of black ownership, and we had what's called what is it called, affirmative action.
affirmative
But
action.
he created his. He's the first guy to ever talk his way into Harvard.
Hmm.
Usually you have to get a scholarship or get invited. He went there to tell him that he needed to go to Harvard.
Yeah.
And he got
Like
it.
going back to high school or before, like he was always that person, right? He was dressed nice, he got his nice car on his own. He had his lessons from his mama when when, when she did something for him and she took her cut out of it. Like he was always learning and growing even at a younger age. So it was interesting to see that instilled in him from the beginning. And I'm at the part in the book where he's buying this company, but he's buying it himself, but he's saying he's representing his clients through the process.
Because
So
he
I
was
don't
a
think they,
lawyer. He was a lawyer. Yeah.
yeah. So he's fine. He had to find creative ways and battle his way through owning these businesses and getting to that point. So I'm like halfway through the book. I'm not completely done with it, but I have been
Well, I
enjoying it.
love when he made the offer for Beatrice Foods,
That's
and
where I'm at, I think.
he called and he says, I want to I'm representing my client, and we'd like to make an offer of $988 million. And they said, we like your offer, but who in the hell are you? Nobody knew it, because usually people that do $1 billion deal, everybody knows their name.
Right.
Nobody knows his name. But Wells Fargo Bank put that deal together for him. Wells Fargo Bank.
Hey,
Wow.
they've been around.
And he only came on $1 billion deal that he came up with. I think it was like 3-4 mil. That's all he came up with. And he
Why should
became
white
this,
guys have all the
huh?
fun? It's why should white guys have all the fun, right? Is that what it
Yes.
was?
Is that what it's called?
Reginald
Who's it by?
Yeah. Why should white
Reginald.
guys have all the fun? Mm.
Oh, I have it right here. There it
Yeah.
is.
He was an
This is
incredible.
it on the Audible, right? I don't know if we can see
Right,
it.
right, right.
There
You
he
got
Oh,
is.
there we go.
him
Now you can
right
see it.
there.
Right.
Yeah, that's him. Futures Foods, David, so you understand, is an international company.
Oh,
So
okay.
they're in Paris, they're in France, they're in
Mhm.
all over the globe. Nestle's
Oh,
chocolate
wow.
and all kinds of stuff. They own a bunch of stuff. But $1 billion company, and he's got the corporate jets, and he's flying to Europe. he went
He's
deep.
doing everything.
Sounds
He's
like
doing
it.
everything. And he had a little bit of that temper too. Like when you listen to it, there's people that kind of mentioned how he had it in him, but he also seemed to control that temper too. Like he maybe pushed the limit a little bit with, especially with his closer people, right, or his maybe his employees. But you can tell he still had some of that controlled fire in him too, that
Yeah.
allowed him to be successful. So yeah, I'm enjoying that book. What about yourself, David? What's a book for you that you've
Ooh.
liked?
Well, definitely. How to Win Friends and Influence People was a good one. I know Brandon and I
Mm-hmm.
really got into
That's a
that
good
book
one too.
at the time I was reading that. And
Mm-hmm.
but my most influential book and the book that I've been inspired in life by was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Mm-hmm.
And have you guys read The Alchemist or heard of it?
No,
I've heard of it. I have not.
Uh-huh.
what is it
Yeah.
about? Can you tell me what's
So
about?
it's essentially a short read. It's a fiction, well, yeah, a fiction story about a shepherd and his personal life journey. Essentially, without giving too much, he is given this like prophecy that he is going to find riches one day, and he's over here searching and searching and searching for these riches, and he's going through all these different life paths that he's expecting it to come at some point, and it just keeps growing
Mhm.
further and further from him. And in
Right.
that story, he basically finds himself, and he finds that the treasure is really within him and
Mm,
the journey of life itself. So, without telling you too much, because there's a lot more into it,
right.
it's just a great story of like being able to find yourself in this life and realizing that the treasure is your life,
You are the
and
treasure.
I think that's the last book that really I read during COVID, and that was really one book that just made me emotional reading it because of how powerful it is as a story.
Okay.
Hmm.
Damn, that's good. I don't know if I have the book that I could compare that one to. That sounds like that sounds
A
pretty
bunch
good.
of there was it's quotes from a bunch of dead guys. That's
Hmm.
the title. Quotes from a bunch, and in it you got quotes of uh, like every man wants to master uh, horses and women and something. I can't remember all of it, but it was also like some people have enthusiasm for a day, but it's
Yeah.
he or she who has enthusiasm for life. And
Mhm.
it's all about famous people that said quotes, and it's just simple reading. It's just quotes that you can read that famous people said, like the what they call the Ben Franklin Inquiry, where
Mhm.
put all the good on one side and the bad on the other side, and make a decision which side is the strongest. It was a good
Right.
little read, though, but very simple book.
Did it describe them, or was it just like literally the quotes, and it was up for your?
That's just quotes. It was just like Henry Ford says, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
You're
Okay.
right.
If you believe you can't do it, you will not do it. If you believe in your mind you cannot do it, you will not do it."
That's pretty interesting. I feel like that's very like simple, but like I like the idea itself, and that made like bank just using other people's
Of course. Other
words,
people's
which is
quotes.
interesting. Yeah,
But I
because
loved it because every morning you could read one of the quotes. It would
hmm,
just give you a thought starter,
yeah, it's like a Bible
just
verse.
for that day. Just
Yeah,
yeah, it was
it's
just
interesting.
really interesting to see some. Like you ever heard the one about the three gods were trying to figure where to hide success, and one god says, "Let's put it on the highest mountain." The other two gods says, "No, if you put it on the highest mountain, man or woman someday will." The second god says, "Let's put it in the deepest part of the ocean." The other god says, "No, if you put it in the deepest part of the ocean, one day man or woman will still be able to find it." Third god says, "We got the surest place of all. Let's hide it within themselves because it's sure not to look there."
Mm, there it is.
Wow.
It's
There it
like The
is.
Alchemist.
That's on your book that
Yeah.
you were talking
Yeah,
about, David. Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
right. That's The Alchemist. I uh,
Yeah.
I was looking at the name of this one book because there's two books that I read over the last probably 8-10 years that kind of hit me when I read them.
Hmm.
There's a few, and a lot of them are more internal kind of work and emotional things I was going through. So when I was going through these hard times, these books helped me quite a bit. And I think this one's great, and this is probably my favorite one to advise people to read, especially for like relationships and communication and just like getting along with your partner or others.
Hmm.
Right.
it's called it's called Attached. Um, it's here. It's a book right here. It's called Attached, and it's by Amir Levine, right? But
Really?
here, I'll show you guys. Let's see if it shows up here. There we go.
Hmm.
Oh wow.
Attached,
Catch. Okay.
and
I
it
see.
talks about the types of attachment styles we end up creating from childhood. So it
Yeah.
stems from us as children with our parents. And there's four types of styles they've put in now, but at the time of the book was written, there was three. And one of the attachment styles is secure. And that's about like half of the people in the world. A secure attachment style is someone that's, not afraid of relationships. They're open to communication. They're willing to help and give to their partner and hear what their partners need and receive it. And the idea is this person had more of a secure upbringing with their mother or their parents from like
Yeah.
0 to 2 or whatever the age is. Um, and they felt safe and confident in that. The other type of personality was an anxious personality type, where
Mm.
this person also was good with relationships, but they were very in tune with other people's feelings and very sensitive to it.
Right.
And they needed more reassurance. So they were a little bit more fearful. They were concerned about, cheating and lying. And like they were just more sensitive and they needed more reassurance. But they were, if they stayed in a relationship with someone who was secure, they could become secure. And this person
Right.
as a child maybe wasn't reassured as much, maybe left alone more. They had some things that created them to be this way. And then the last type was an avoidant personality style. And
Hmm.
avoidant people, they're the type of person that they need love too in relationship, But once they get enough of it, that's it. They don't need any more. So they start kind of pushing away or finding excuses or, always kind of keeping their space in their relationship.
Okay.
So if you get
Where do you fall in the category? What category do you fall in?
I'm
'Cause
anxious,
I'm
secure,
with, okay, yeah, you know where I fall? The
where's that?
third one you said.
The
I
avoidant.
think I think I've been afraid of love more than secure with love because I always was afraid I couldn't control my emotions because when I was really young, I fell for my high school sweetheart, and it didn't go the way it should have because I was very immature and insecure. But I think I've spent my whole life getting enough love and then wanting to pull away. And
Yeah.
it's curious to see what type of man are you going to be, David? Where do you see in those three categories?
You
And
know, I've actually,
because I'm asking him, and I'm just curious where you think you would fall.
I don't know. I think my life just kind of changes and I move with it sometimes. Like I know I've researched this stuff in college and I was on the path to more, I think the secured path, but I know I've also been the anxious path and I've also, I think right now I'm more the avoidant path. I'm not gonna lie. I
Oh,
don't know what
really?
I'm
So
doing anymore.
Yeah.
you're in avoiding now, right now. Okay,
I'm
so
pushing
I get
people
it.
away at this point. I'm trying to focus on my own stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
know what I think life has lost
Hmm.
is when men and women got together back in the day, and I'm taking you guys back a long time ago in the 50s and
Hmm.
60s, people would get together and they would just have a little bit, but then they would work together and they'd have a lot. And I think a lot of people are so focused on what they need that they're not getting what they should have to be as great as they can be. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, like I told my grandson, Caprice, I says, "You're great now, but if God blesses you to get a great woman,
Mm,
the sky's the limit, bro. What you can do,
mm,
and just respect that because when that chemistry is right, there's nothing you can't. I had that, but with my wife, and I chose to go in a different direction, and it's never worked out for me since then. Because
yeah.
Yeah.
a team is better than just a one-off. I think,
Right.
in my personal opinion, but that's.
Yeah.
I was
Well,
just
that's
curious
where,
where you guys stand on that because I knew
yeah.
where I fit, but I didn't know where you guys fit.
Well, that's why your avoidant personality kind of made it even in a perfect scenario, right? And
Hmm.
and now that you went through it, you understand it more and you understand yourself better. And that's why I like the book because when I read the book, I understood myself better. I understood
Amen.
people I was with around me better, and it helps you kind of navigate through it more versus finding out the hard way, right? And I'm
Yeah.
still finding out the hard way, don't get me wrong, but reading that book definitely put a lot of peace in my mind and how to deal with what I was going through and who I was and who the people I've dealt with are. So
Hmm.
it also said in the book, David, by the way, and for you too, Philip, there's a test you take. You can take it online probably. It's real simple. You just answer simple questions and you get a score from 0 to 30 on each category, each third.
Yeah.
And if you get 20 points or more, then you're pretty high into that level. If it's like 10 to 20 points, you're in the mid. And if it's 0 to 10, then it's like a very low. But it's
Okay.
saying every person could have a little bit of those
Of all,
personality
yeah.
And
types.
I can see that where we all could have share some of it, but we don't commit to all of it. But does that
Correct.
Yeah.
make sense? Mm,
Absolutely.
I
mm.
took that test
So,
like 3 years ago and I got the secured path, but it was like somewhere in the mid range. So
right.
I really do think that I just sometimes certain parts of it just get triggered, you know? Like right now I'm on
Yeah.
the avoidance side, but I was secure for a long time. I don't know. That's just my
Yeah.
idea. But I'm sure there's the more in-depth psychology with it, like, how you were raised and how you know, dealt with
Yeah.
family issues and all that. But yeah.
And then
What do
those
you guys think of
experience you go through
therapy?
life.
What do you think
Hmm.
of therapy, though? What do you, if would you ever go to therapy? Because I think that's something that a lot of us won't do,
Hmm.
but I've seen people go through it and come out the other side better if they're open for it. But you got to be open
Yeah.
yourself to want to do it. But would
Yeah.
you ever do that, David, or would you ever do it, Brandon? Therapy?
Actually, in college, I had a therapist for like 2 years, because I was going through a lot, and I did get to this point where I thought I needed it, and it was helpful. It was a really bad point though because they put me on a bunch of antidepressants. I was
Oh,
on like
that's
two
the
or three
worst to
different
do it.
ones.
Yes.
Yeah, at that point it was awful, but the therapy itself was a good thing, and the antidepressants, I won't lie, both combined saved my life from, things that could have happened, but I am grateful that I was down that path instead of the other, and honestly, it helped me stay on track, and it helped me, the antidepressants suck though. Like I wouldn't
Right.
recommend it unless it's a last resort
No.
to anybody because I felt like a zombie. Like I couldn't think straight, I couldn't do the things I wanted to do in life, and I as you guys know, I'm an artist as well, and I couldn't even use my art. I couldn't even create art when I was on those drugs.
Mm.
It was a very hard time in my life, but it was
Kind of
necessary.
turned everything off for you.
Exactly.
It kind of shut your mind down, is what it sounds like. With that
Yeah.
depressant it just took your mind down to just
It
doing
made
it.
me feel like I had no feelings at all rather than just, away from the depression. And, I think I'd rather go through depression and get through to the other side nowadays than not feel anything at all.
Well, that's the one thing with artists too, is artists they're feelers. They
Yeah.
feel things like I'm like, I always say I should have been an artist or I am one because I know I have that in me.
The
But
empathy.
yeah, and but like you said, in that moment, the combination saved your life. And
Oh yeah.
obviously you were able to transition off of it. In my opinion, I think I think safe therapy and the right person is always good. Like
Of
Hmm.
course.
you can have bad therapists, right? Just like we
Oh,
were talking
without a
earlier,
doubt.
there's always good and bad in the world.
Yeah.
So the hard part is some people go to therapy, they have a bad experience, or it didn't, the person wasn't that great and they maybe shun it or, put it out of the picture. But reality is we all probably could use someone to talk to. We could always use a mediator. We could always use
Hmm.
someone to help us, with our thoughts and our relationships. So my biggest thing with therapy is how expensive it is.
It's,
Yeah.
everything is
it's,
expensive, though.
it's
What
like
is cheap these days? Can you name?
nothing.
I want you guys to tell me something that's cheap these days.
Not
No.
Am I the only one in this world?
Not even
You
freaking
know,
groceries are cheap nowadays.
oh
Like
my
yeah.
everything's
God.
expensive.
I remember a
Yeah.
time you could walk in a grocery store and put $200 on the counter, and you'd have bags of food. Now they get you go $100 and you get the little plastic bags, and you got about four items
You
in
got to
each
pay
bag,
too.
and you might have four of them, and you go, "I spent a hundred
Yeah.
bucks on this. Are you joking me?" It's just,
Shocking
oh
every
man,
time.
it's
But yeah,
just,
and that's the thing. If everything's so expensive and you could barely afford to live already, right? To think you're going to pay an extra $300 to $500 a month just to like have someone to hear you out, it doesn't seem like
it
you can
makes
afford
sense.
to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though,
Yeah,
hey, the peace of mind is priceless, right?
Yep.
priceless,
It's an
priceless.
And
investment at the end of the day. It's rather your life could be hanging by threads or it can be, back to strands. I don't know. Like
yeah,
it's better like that if you think about it like that, I guess. But I'm a
yeah.
hypocrite because I haven't gone to therapy since college, and yeah, I
Mm.
can't say anything.
Well, you're
I
also still in your
did,
20s, so
yeah,
True.
yeah, I did it, marriage counseling
Hmm.
and did some other things, but you got to go there with your mind prepared to change. Because
mhm,
if you go there and you come out thinking the same way, it's a
It
waste.
didn't
But if
work.
you can
Yeah.
be open minded enough to see yourself, the only great thing about getting older is that you don't lie to yourself anymore.
mhm,
You see
right.
things more realistic. When you're young and the old folks didn't sugarcoat it to kind of like just cloud you over with whatever they were thinking, and you
Right.
go,
Yeah.
they could have done that different. But you get as you get older yourself, you're like, I ain't got time for the sugarcoating. This
You
is the way
understand the
I feel.
bluntness. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand it now, being in that space. But what used to bug me about, you know, because if you didn't want to hear the truth, you didn't want to talk to no old person. You just like stay the heck away from them because they're gonna lay the truth on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is accountability feels like an attack until you're ready to acknowledge how your actions make the other person feel. Right. So it's like, if someone's telling you something, an old head is telling you something, it's like, you don't want to hear it. It feels like an
No, you
attack.
don't.
It's like, but when you're accountable and that's what happens as you get older, right? You become accountable. You stop lying to
Especially.
yourself.
Yeah, you stop lying to yourself. You tell the
Yeah.
truth. The story comes out totally different than it would in your 20s and 30s. And you get a little fluff in your 20s and 30s. Not a little, but a lot.
A lot,
My
plenty of
truth,
it.
I never did anything wrong, my 20s and
Mhm.
30s. It was everybody else's fault. It wasn't me.
Yeah. I was going to say blaming others. Yeah. Blaming others a whole lot.
It's David's fault. He did it.
Oh
And
yeah.
sure,
It's
man,
all
it's
your
not
bad,
me.
It's
David.
all me.
I'm perfect. Yeah, right. Yeah. And for a moment, I actually believed that until you look back and you go, man, did I really think like that? And
Hmm.
you did because the more open you are uh, to, I became a better CEO when I could allow other people's ideas to
To be
penetrate
heard.
because that's when you really can get some growth in your business or anything.
Hmm.
Because if you don't think your way is the only way, and you allow other people to say, well, what if we tried this? And you go, damn, that sounds kind of good. Why don't we?
Hmm.
You know,
Hey,
I
I,
had to
I got
learn
something
that.
to add. I got something to add on that point because I've been going through that very thing myself, and let me tell you what that is. So, my wife Valerie, she's into the stars and into
Astrology.
Astrology.
astrology and into just all kinds of different things that maybe I'm into. I'm not against, but I'm not like into it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So she's been doing this thing called tapping for years where you like tap, like you tap parts of your body or like, you
Mm.
and you
Really?
as you're being guided through a meditation and the
Oh,
person's
okay.
telling
That
you
makes sense.
where to
Okay.
tap.
It's like a
And
chakra.
during that, yeah. And
Yeah.
during, for example, the last 10 minutes of our night, she'll put on the app and there's all these different things that the meditation will do. Like last night's was, something about having a good day at work and like a positive,
Yeah.
experience at work. And I was like, okay, let's try that one. Let's see how that works out. 2 nights before that, it was like waking up feeling happy and refreshed.
Mm.
So we're sitting there in the dark. We're following this meditation, tapping, and they have you say things like, tomorrow I will wake up refreshed. And you just repeat it.
Oh,
Tomorrow I
okay.
will wake up
Oh, I
refreshed.
like that.
And like yesterday was, tomorrow I will have a great day at work. So I'm doing this like tapping and I'm feeling silly, just tapping and listening to this, repeating it. But you know what? That
It
shit's been
worked.
working. Like we woke
I
up
have,
refreshed the other day. I went to work.
uh
Yeah,
I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say I think what it is, and this is like a universal law type of thing. The more you are saying things or praying or however you want to say it, you're feeling it when you're touching yourself and giving yourself that sensation. So you're feeling that this is the
Right.
feeling of this is success for tomorrow. This is how I'm gonna feel, and that's where it comes from. Like just like prayer when you're on your knees or when you're in bed or whatever, you're thinking of it and you're thinking of it and you're feeling these feelings, but when
Hmm.
you're adding the physical sensation, it might help.
Right.
Just like in
That makes
church, when
sense
I
to
was in
me.
church a lot, they used to tell us singing would be more of a prayer than just saying it in your head or talking
Hmm.
to God. Like it was always singing because you feel it more, or something like that. I don't know. This is just what I
Yeah,
heard
it's
and read. Mhm.
yeah, and that's the idea. It's singing is what is it? It's like praising, right? You're praising
Yeah.
God by singing, and you're giving him that. But yeah, it's setting the intention in your mind and going to sleep right before you go to sleep, creating this intentional idea for the next day or for that. So when you do wake up, like today, I had a situation where I left a little bit later than I wanted to, and then before I was driving to work, I got a call from work, and I was like, I could either turn around and take the call at my house. I'm 2 minutes from my house, or I could not take the call and drive 30 minutes to work. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just turn around. I took the call, and it ended up being a great call. I ended up having a great day. I ended up working from home, which I didn't want to do, but I took that same mentality of my intention on the night before, and I actually had a great day all day today at work. And like one of the things was that you would have a refreshed or clear mind for your day and think of new ideas. And sure enough, I thought of a new way or a new idea for like me to work with another guy I've been working with. And I'm like, why hadn't I thought about this whole time? It was one of those ideas. It was like, wait, why didn't I think of this before? And the first thing I thought after that,
adjustment. You gave yourself a mental adjustment.
Yeah, and I set that intention.
Well, one of the things I've always done, as I got a little older, is I'd get out of bed, and I don't care if it was storming, and I'd look out the window and I'd go, wow, what a beautiful day. And those little things that what you're talking about, Brandon, makes all the difference in the world. Because you set your mind up to be in a different place.
Right.
If you wake up and you look out the window, oh, this is going to be another crappy day. Guess what it's going to be? Another crappy day.
Yep.
So what you did, what your wife is trying to get you to do, I think I'm jealous that I haven't figured that one out. I'm going to find out whatever that, because mental is everything, man. Your mental space and your head space, it can take you it can take you anywhere you want to go.
Yeah.
If you set your mind right. In my 20s, I had the worst attitude in the world. I wish I could put in a DVD, whatever they call it now, and show you who I was.
Difference. Well, you were probably more closed-minded at that time, right?
I was definitely.
And now
young
you're
and
more
thought
open.
I was the smartest guy in the world. Young,
of course
cocky,
you were,
and thought I was the smartest guy in the world.
Well, like you said, we have to be more open to things, and when you became the best CEO, it's because you were more open to hearing other people's ideas. Your way wasn't always the way. Yep. And even myself, I could work hard every day and I have this work ethic, but listening to my wife and going along with this idea of tapping, which is kind of silly when I see her outside and she's sitting there, tapping herself. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm kind of making fun of her in a sense, but I kind of like put that aside and I said, okay, let me just do your thing. And I'm happy I did, like, just not, that I was open-minded to it.
And I think that's the key thing that you're saying is that I had to change from my 20s to my 30s. Just to paint a picture of who I was. I was the guy that would quit a job in 2 seconds. Tell everybody in the building, I'm out. You so and so and so and so on. I burned the bridge down so bad. If I got to get back to the other side on that bridge, it ain't happening. It ain't happening. You better be able to go the way you pointed, because you just burnt the bridge, the neighborhood, the dealership. And so these dealerships were just, oh man, I had a bad reputation. And I was 27 when I was shaving, and I looked in the mirror and I said, God, for the rest of my life, I'll give you the best attitude I can become. And it changed my life dramatically. So when I say things like your attitude, I was the worst, man. Anybody that knows me would tell you, if they met me in my 20s, I was not the nicest.
That you were not this guy. Yeah.
I wasn't that guy. I wasn't.
Yeah.
But I think we all are capable of learning, and I think what you learned from your wife is that let's try this. And I think the more open you are to that, the better your life will be. That's just my
I
personal,
agree. I
because
agree, 100%.
I shunned a lot of things in my 20s that I found out about in my 30s. And I go, wow, why wasn't I smart enough to figure that out? Why wouldn't I? Because that bad attitude, I did, when I had that bad attitude, I didn't feel good about myself. I'm going to be honest. I was so wrapped up in it that I thought I was feeling good. And then when you really see how it changes your life, it's amazing. Because with a great
Yeah.
attitude, you can get through anything, man. I
Well,
think
they
that's why my
say,
kids like to call me too, because I'm in a different space than I was in my 20s. I tell them all the reasons why it will work, and this is what you got to do, and they like hearing that. And I'll say, "You've been through something worse than that, Tyler. So why are you freaking out?" And look, yeah, you're right, Dad.
well, you know what? I can speak from personal experience. Another reason why us young kids like to reach out to you is because you listen, you don't judge. Like you don't. There's not a judgment in your voice. You listen, and then you give a caring response, a kind response, and a helpful one. Like it's not because you've lived through it, you've experienced it, but you also don't throw in that judgment or give in that you don't come down hard on us like maybe the old heads used to do.
Well, and because it doesn't work like it used to. See,
Right.
when I when when I first bought the dealership, I was a yeller and a screamer until
Mhm.
one day about five of my employees were packing their cars up and getting ready to leave, and I realized this ain't gonna work because you ain't gonna be you'll be a CEO to yourself, and nobody will work.
Nobody. Yeah.
Nobody will work for you. And I learned that being patient. Some of my greatest employees started off were not the greatest employees, but if I built them up and told them what I saw in them, they became impeccable. Like I would call an employee and say, John, I'm really disappointed, man. I didn't yell no more. I'm just disappointed. I just expected more from you, and I'm really disappointed. And you can see grown people, grown women, and men go, boss, I wouldn't have never wanted to disappoint you. Let me work on it. What did I do wrong? And it opened up a positive thing. Because
Yeah.
the yelling and screaming was what I saw in the 50s and the 60s. That's the
Yeah.
way people ran businesses and stuff.
Well, when you tell them they're disappointed, they could look at themselves better versus putting you as a putting you as the bad guy, as the one
Right.
attacking them, because you're not attacking them. You're just letting them know disappointment, and then they could look inwards. And I remember, point being is you allow them to look at themselves versus you pointing out all the things they did wrong and how upset you are about it. They get to look at themselves then and look at what they did and how they could improve to not disappoint, right?
Well, and what I hope to do is leave a lot of, I've been through so many good things, bad things, all kinds of things. And a guy asked me one day, we were talking, and I was telling him about some of the things I've been through in my life. And he says, Phil, can you do me a favor? And I said, sure. He said, leave it. Don't take it with you.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Leave it.
That's
Don't
how
take
this
it with
started. That's how this started.
you. Yeah.
Your
And that's
DNA.
what, if I can just shed a little light that makes people think and they can become a better version of themselves, that's when I would feel successful. And a lot of young people, they call me Papa P. They'll come and sit and talk to me because I want to share that with them. And sometimes I have to catch myself. Say, I apologize. Am I talking to them? Oh no, Papa P, you just I don't have anybody to talk to me like that. Keep
Just
talking, keep
soaking it
talking.
up.
They soaking it up.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think we need to get more people finding people that they can communicate with, because I think everybody's a little bit high. Do you guys notice since the pandemic that people got more shell shocked? And I mean, like, to me, it changed the world. Is that, am I over? Tell me if I'm exaggerating in my head, but you know what I'm saying?
I have something to say about that.
Yeah, I would love to
Yeah,
hear.
so I'd say from my perspective is that social media and other outlets of entertainment took over once we were stuck at home, once we were stuck in this bubble, and we created our own bubble. We created what we wanted to see, what we were watching, what we were doing, and that experience changed our mentality. It changed how we perceive each other in light of that. And on top of that, how do I say it? People's mindsets shifted into more of an ego, because now they see it as like, this, my life is in this social media. In that sense, they don't care about other people anymore, because they only care about their likes, they only care about their needs, in that sense, because they had to
That's
for so long, as like another sense of survival and entertainment.
Right.
And entertainment is a form of survival when you're in that hole, when you're in that state of, I'm by myself, or I'm only with this amount of people X, Y, and Z time, because of the pandemic and how we were all stuck inside, and we were all stuck on our opinions, like the whole anti-vax, vax, Republican, Democrat. Like, there was all these opinions, and everybody had to choose a side.
It's amplified.
He said, Brandon, what I was thinking, David just said, because I see from the pandemic on, socially we're awkward now compared to where I used to visualize everybody being.
Yeah.
And it seems like people are not as open to being as friendly as they used to be. Is that just me saying that, or what I mean? People saying, I mean, it was more of a common thing for people to say, "Hey, good morning," even if they didn't mean it. They said it as a nice gesture.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Now they don't say nothing.
You don't have to mean it. At least say it. No,
but they walk past you and just it's almost like they're afraid if you say something to them, I got to talk to you. You know what I mean? Like, don't talk to me. They'll deliberately look down at the ground and keep walking past you. And I'll mess with people sometimes and just say, "Hey, how you doing today?" Just to mess with them.
Just to scare them. That's funny. I don't know if I've even said this before on this podcast or not, but it's still, this whole topic reminds me of this joke I heard where the guy said, like, 30, 50 years ago, we would all be sitting around at night with the family watching TV, the kids on the floor, parents on the couch. And if someone knocked on the door, everyone would get excited and be like, "Oh, who's here? Who's visiting?"
Right.
Now someone knocks on the door. You're like, "Who the is that?" Like, like, you don't even come knocking, so it's just a different time and a different world. And actually, now that we're talking about it, I remembered the thing I was going to say earlier, which was when we talked about how you've changed over time and how you used to be in your 20s and how you are now. And even in this topic, right, how we've all kind of changed. I remember reading that as we grow up, and, you've heard lots of people talk about this, but we create a character that helps us survive through life, through middle school, through high school. And, like, for example, I was an introverted kid who was like home alone, getting picked on by my brother and, all these other things. But in like 7th grade, people started liking me because I played basketball, and then they wanted me around, and I started, acting like a certain person because that character made me liked and loved in my mind. Right. And what happens is that character gets you so far until it doesn't. Right. Because it's not your true authentic self. It's not really who you are. It's who you created to survive and to be and to make your, whatever it may be. But at some point, that person fails you through life, through marriage, through relationships, through something, because it's not your true self. So you have to learn how to kill that character and get rid of that person, in a sense, and go back to who you really are to truly achieve your best self.
You know how I made a lot of money in this world?
How's that?
Being a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously. I learned from my mom how to be nice to people and really care about them. And that is the formula. Now, I don't know in this new age if it would have the same effect as it
Hmm.
did back in the day, because people just wanted someone to care about them, take care of them. And I mastered that. And I just, I wonder if that business model still works. Is
I think
everything
it does.
easier now?
I'm going to take a vote, and I'd love for us to take a vote online and hear what people's responses are. But I think by far that way still wins every time, even in the
I think
worst of
so
times,
too. I
is my opinion.
I would love to be right next door to a corporate store.
Everybody, thank you for watching our DNA. Have a great day and an even better tomorrow.